It was late November in the quiet suburbs of St. Paul, Minnesota. A cold wind blew along Summit Avenue, where old, beautiful Victorian houses lined the street. The trees had already lost most of their leaves, and now those leaves danced in little swirls across the pavement. One of the grandest houses on the street belonged to the Carter family. In their driveway sat a shiny new Lexus RX, a sign of wealth and status. Elizabeth Morgan, Patricia Carter's oldest daughter, stepped out of the car with her phone in hand and a wide smile on her face. "Mom, I just closed a deal on a $1.5 million property." "A brand new client," she shouted proudly. Patricia stood at the front door, waiting to welcome her daughter. She opened her arms for a hug and smiled in approval. She wore a soft cashmere sweater from Nordstrom and had perfect makeup, giving her the look of someone who took great care to appear elegant and put together. "That's wonderful, darling," she said, clearly pleased. Across town, the scene was very different. That same afternoon, Jennifer Wilson was finishing up her shift at Regents Hospital, where she worked as a nurse. She had spent over 10 years caring for her elderly parent. It wouldn't look good to have poor people from a single-parent household at the table. It would be embarrassing in front of our clients. The room fell silent. No one said a word in defense of Jennifer or Lily. Even 12-year-old Tommy sat quietly with a special kids' meal in front of him. Lily's eyes filled with tears. "Mom," she whispered. Jennifer took her hand and said calmly, "Let's go, Lily." They walked out, leaving the warm pie and card on a side table. No one tried to stop them. Outside, the sun was already setting. Jennifer held Lily close as they sat in the car. "I'm so sorry, Lily. This is all my fault. Did I do something wrong?" Lily asked in a shaky voice. "No, sweetheart," Jennifer said, holding back tears. "You did nothing wrong. You're perfect." They drove away as the golden leaves glowed in the fading light. The Carter house disappeared in the rearview mirror, now just a shell of the home Jennifer once knew. Back in their small apartment, it was dark. Lily quietly walked to the kitchen. "Can we make cookies, Mom?" she asked in a small voice. "Yes," Jennifer said, "let's do it together." That night, they baked late into the night. They flipped through the Betty Crocker recipe book and tried new things. The kitchen was filled with the sweet smell of vanilla and warm cookies. It wasn't a fancy house, but it was filled with something the Carter mansion lacked: real love. A week later, winter was settling in. At the hospital, Jennifer glanced at her phone and saw over 10 missed calls from her mother, but her finger didn't move to call back. A coworker handed her a chart. "Jennifer, your mom's blood sugar is dangerously high. She's been skipping her appointments," the doctor said with concern. Jennifer sighed. She had been the one managing their care for years. Elizabeth never helped. She always had excuses about work, even though their parents still sent her money. Back home, Lily was still baking. "Mom, I found a new Christmas cookie recipe," she said cheerfully, though her eyes looked a little sad. The phone rang again. This time, it was her dad. "Jenny. I can't remember the names of my medications anymore," he said, his voice sounding confused. Jennifer stayed up all night, worrying. As a nurse, she recognized the early signs of worsening dementia. A few days later, she ran into Elizabeth at the church. Elizabeth looked smug. "Tough week?" she said, swinging her fancy designer bag. "You abandoned our parents," she added with a shrug. Jennifer's voice shook with emotion. "Do you even realize I've been the one taking care of them for the last 10 years? Elizabeth scoffed. "You're a nurse, that's your job. I have a real career. I have to keep up appearances." Jennifer felt something break inside her, not anger, but sadness. Then came the call. Patricia was rushed to the ER. "Her blood sugar is dangerously high," the doctor said. "She hasn't been taking her medication." In the hospital room, Robert was muttering over and over. "Patty, what day is it, Patty?" The next day, a social worker met with them. "Home care isn't an option anymore," she said gently. "They need 24-hour professional help." "But that's expensive," Elizabeth cried. "The family will need to share the cost," the social worker said. "Insurance would only cover so much." Elizabeth's face changed. She was deep in debt: luxury cars, designer clothes, private school tuition. Her perfect life was cracking. Soon, rumors started to spread around the church. The Carters, once seen as successful and respected, were now the subject of whispers. Meanwhile, Lily kept baking. "Mom, these cookies are for Grandpa," she started to say, then paused. Her small hands pressed the dough harder. One day at the hospital, Jennifer came face to face with her mother again. "Jenny," Patricia said softly. Her voice had lost all of its old pride. Jennifer sat across from her mother. Patricia, in the quiet living room, there was a space between them, not just on the couch, but in their hearts. Years of silence, misunderstandings, and pain lived in that space. Patricia's hands were shaking a little as she held her tea. "I wanted to come see you that day," she said softly. "I was wrong back then, about so many things." Jennifer felt her chest tighten. The memory of Lily crying after being ignored by her grandmother still stung. That moment hadn't left her, not even for a second. It was the kind of hurt that stayed, no matter how much time passed. But Jennifer took a deep breath. She had learned to stay calm, especially after years of being a nurse. She couldn't afford to lose her temper now. "Mom," she said quietly but firmly, "we'll talk about Dad's care, but before we do, you need to understand something. Things can't go back to the way they were, not without honesty." Outside, the wind howled through the trees of Calm Park. Snowflakes danced in the air. Winter had come to Minnesota, harsh and cold. But for Jennifer, it also felt like a new beginning. A cold season, yes, but also a clean one, maybe even a hopeful one. She looked out the window and made a silent promise to herself. "I won't let anger guide me. I'll protect Lily. I'll protect this family, even if it hurts." That evening, the smell of sugar and vanilla filled the house. Lily, with flour on her cheeks, beamed as she held up a tray of cookies. "Mom, I added extra vanilla," she said proudly. "Grandma likes it that way, remember?" Jennifer crouched and hugged her tight. She closed her eyes and breathed in the scent. In that moment, she realized something. Sometimes, small things, like a little girl baking cookies, can heal more than words ever could. By Christmas Eve, snow had taken over the streets of St. Paul. Thick, heavy flakes fell fast. The local news warned of the worst snowstorm in 10 years. The city felt frozen, still, and tense. Just after 10 in the morning, Jennifer's phone rang. She answered it, expecting a holiday call, but what she heard made her blood run cold. Her mother's voice was shaking. "Your father, he left the house," Patricia said. "He wanted to get Lily's cookies. I must have fallen asleep. When I woke up, he was gone. It's been over 30 minutes. Jennifer's heart stopped. "In this weather?" "We already called the police," Patricia continued, nearly crying, "but they said it's hard to search in this kind of storm. Elizabeth called too. She's looking." Jennifer looked over at Lily, who had heard everything. The little girl's face was pale. "Grandpa's missing?" she asked. Jennifer forced a smile. "Don't worry, honey, I'll find him. You'll stay with Mrs. Johnson next door while I go look, okay?" The drive through the blizzard was like a nightmare. Snow covered the roads, and her car's wipers could barely keep up. Jennifer gripped the wheel tightly, her knuckles white. She kept praying, "Please, let him be okay." When she reached Summit Avenue, she found Patricia crying at the entrance to their building. Elizabeth was nearby, talking loudly on the phone in her fancy coat. "He's probably at Target," Elizabeth said. "He's been going there a lot." Jennifer shook her head. "No, he used to love that old bakery, the one that made Lily's favorite cookies. That's where he would go." They decided to split up. Elizabeth's sleek Lexus got stuck in the snow a few blocks away. She cursed under her breath. No bakery is open today anyway. But Jennifer didn't stop. She thought about how her dad used to walk the same path every day when he was still a teacher. Her nurse's instincts kicked in. She followed her gut. Then her phone rang again. "Hello, this is Regents Hospital," the voice said. "An elderly man was just brought in. He has signs of hypothermia. No ID, but he was found holding a box of cookies." Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. She turned toward the hospital as fast as the storm allowed. Inside the emergency room, the sounds of beeping machines and hurried footsteps filled the air. Jennifer spotted her father on a hospital bed, pale, tired, and cold. In his hands, he clutched a soggy, half-frozen box of cookies. "Lily's cookies," he whispered. Jennifer's heart broke. All the years of silence, the fights, the pride, they melted in that one moment. Nothing else mattered but the look in his eyes and the love he still held for his granddaughter. The doctor looked serious. "He needs round-the-clock care now," she said. "He can't live alone anymore." Elizabeth frowned. That's going to be expensive. Patricia lowered her head. Most of my savings are already gone. Jennifer stayed calm. We need real help. I've done everything I can, appointments, medicine, bills, but we can't keep doing this by ourselves. Elizabeth snapped. You walked away at Thanksgiving. You abandoned us. Jennifer's voice cracked. Walked away? I've been the one taking care of everything for 10 years. You cared more about your lifestyle than our parents. Silence followed. Then, the door creaked open. Lily walked in holding a fresh box of cookies. Grandpa, she said softly, I made these just for you, from the old bakery recipe. I practiced a lot. She placed the cookies by his side and held his hand gently. Robert opened his eyes again. Lily, thank you, he whispered, tears forming in his eyes. Patricia began to cry. Elizabeth wiped her face, not caring about her makeup. The room was quiet, except for the steady beep of the heart monitor and the soft scent of vanilla in the air. We forgot what mattered, Patricia whispered. We were so foolish. The nurse smiled. He's stable now. Lily leaned in. Next time, Grandpa, we'll bake together. I'll show you how. Months passed. Thanksgiving was coming again. This time, things were different. Patricia now lived at Oak Grove Senior Living. She wore a simple apron and watched the golden trees sway outside. She looked peaceful. Jennifer walked in for her regular nursing visit. Blood sugar okay? Perfectly fine, Patricia replied, smiling. From the next room, Robert's voice rang out. Lily, what are we cooking today? Grandma's recipe, Lily shouted happily. Lily, now 11, had turned baking into something magical. Every Sunday, she held a small cooking class in her grandparents' apartment. That day, the doorbell rang. Elizabeth walked in with her teenage son, Tommy. No designer bags, just a homemade apron and a tired smile. Sorry I'm late, a house showing ran long, she said. Elizabeth had changed. She now helped pay for their parents' care and worked with regular families. She was different, warmer. Can I help? Tommy asked shyly. Of course, Lily said, grinning. You're my new assistant. The small kitchen filled with laughter and the smell of cinnamon. Jennifer stood back and watched. Her heart felt full. Elizabeth looked over. Remember when we used to watch Mom bake? Jennifer nodded. Now it's Lily teaching us. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. This, not fancy clothes, not money, this was happiness, real love, real family. Lily placed a warm apple pie on the table. It wasn't perfect, but it was made with care and love. This is what Thanksgiving should be, Patricia whispered. Jennifer took her mother's hand. Yes, this is what matters. Outside, the wind danced with leaves. Inside, the room was filled with warmth, from vanilla, cinnamon, and the love they had all rediscovered. As they drove home, Lily asked, Mom, did we find happiness? Jennifer looked at her through the mirror. Yes, she said, smiling, we really did. Because sometimes, love doesn't shout, it whispers, through cookies, shared recipes, and quiet forgiveness. Their story wasn't perfect, but it was finally real, and that was more than enough.